Thank you. I want to start by reflecting what some others have said in paying tribute to the vaccinators in our land. Certainly, I think we can all marvel at the efficiency and assiduous attention that has got us to the point where thankfully we are at within the United Kingdom, of course, also recalling that it's because we are within the United Kingdom that we are so far advanced. But when one thinks and sees firsthand how the operation is performed, as I did at the Seven Towers Leisure Centre in Ballymena, one cannot fail but to be impressed, not least with the volunteers. And I think we have to remember many of those who usher people in and right and in and out and keep them in the right line and where to sit and all of that are in fact volunteers. And the contribution by them, as well as the professional vaccinators from our medical services, is truly remarkable. And therefore, I do want to join in that tribute. I also want then to raise some concerns about this pace at which we are going in this matter. One thing that my constituents constantly raise with me is why, if we're up to speed with vaccinations, why, if our infection rate is on a par with other parts of the United Kingdom, are we lagging so far behind in terms of the opening up process? Why are we always some weeks behind what is happening in GB? We've heard talk from the Prime Minister today, I think it was, about the 1 metre rule might go by the end of June. We've heard talk about opening up flights and all those things. And yet, in Northern Ireland, we seem to be forever last in that process. Why is that? Is it our dysfunctional system of government? Is it that we have a government that likes to remind us that they've got the power as to how we live our lives? Why is it that we are so far? Is it because the unspoken message is that we're being held back by our neighbour, who's so far behind in vaccinations in the Republic of Ireland? And indeed, can I ask the Junior Minister, when he comes to reply, what contingencies are in place to deal with the possibility of infection spreading from the substantially less vaccinated Republic of Ireland into Northern Ireland? What steps does the Executive propose to take to protect the people of Northern Ireland, which should be one of their primary considerations if things are out of kilter and if the Republic is continuing to be lagging behind both in vaccination and in terms of the extent of the infection rate. So those, I think, are key considerations. Another factor of great agitation has come to light over this past few days, and it relates to outdoor hospitality. As I sat here today, I was just reading correspondence from a constituent in North Antrim who runs a much sought-after, much utilised hostelry on the North Coast, and who has today or yesterday been served with a prohibition notice because the Environmental Health Officer of Causeway Coast and Glens Council, this is the same council who turned a blind eye during the Gulf Open a couple of years ago to overcrowding in respect of a certain hostelry in Portrush, but who is coming down incredibly hard on an operator elsewhere on the North Coast and saying, because the area at the back of your premises doesn't have 50% of the roof removed, and though it has most of its sidewalls removed. And because it doesn't therefore comply, we're serving a prohibition notice on you. The sort of thing that was never mentioned in July, when the whole premises, inside and out, could be in use. And yet now suddenly, it's a prohibition. Why is that? And I read in this prohibition notice that the regulations relied upon are in fact the smoke-free premises regulations of 2007. So here we have a situation where a business which has struggled to get back open, which spent lots of money, like others, in equipping themselves according to the standards set in the summer to be open again outside, suddenly find that they are being visited with retribution under the smoke-free regulations of 2007. Where is the fairness? Where is the logic? Where is the need for any of that? So I do say to this executive that you really do need to get a grip. We've had enough petulance when it comes to the hospitality industry. You do need to get a grip, and particularly you need to embrace common sense when it comes to many of these issues. Because otherwise, businesses that have just about kept their selves above water, now when they think relief is coming, are slapped down and may well sink without trace. Is that what the executive wants? I hope not. But that's what some of these actions, such as in respect of that small business, are going to deliver. Principal Deputy Speaker, the other remarks I wanted to make echo something that Mrs Cameron said when she talked about the punitive restrictions on visitings in our care homes and indeed our hospitals. Just last week, I had an elderly lady in touch with me. Her husband is in the cancer unit in the city hospital. Prospects are very, very poor. He may well not come out of it. The family had to nominate one visitor because the lady in question is herself impeded in her mobility, and because visiting is a big problem for her. They nominated the eldest son of the household. And now they're in a situation where that poor lady may never see her husband alive again. That, Principal Deputy Speaker, is cruel. There's no other word for it. It is cruel. And therefore, I do echo the comments that the relevant department needs to address that issue. A bit of discretion would go a long way. Yes?
Member given way, and I wholeheartedly agree with that point and the points that have been echoed by my colleague Pam Cameron. While it has been a cruel aspect of COVID in relation to the lack of visitations, in particularly care home and residential settings, on speaking to the sector, there is quite an alarm among the care home sector as to the lack of support that has been in place to help them adjust to what is a very difficult circumstances whereby they can provide visitations, particularly around the issue of insurance, where insurers are now holding care homes and residential homes at ransom rather than allow visitations in a safe and compliant way. Would the member agree with me that it is now important that the Department of Health and indeed other executive colleagues work with that sector to ensure that we can overcome the barriers that exist?
I do absolutely agree. I think that many sectors have suffered immensely. And the care home sector, we tend, I suppose, to look at it from the perception of the families and those who are in the care homes. But I've no doubt that the care home operators, likewise have difficulties. But I do say to the Executive that there does need to be a modicum of discretion and common sense, that the regulations need to be tempered to allow that, and that we need clarity moving forward, and we need to move forward, not stagnate. Thank you.
Thank you.